The audacity you have to circumvent parental rights and thinking that I have the right to tell these kids what I'm doing, to have a sexual conversation with minors. The big mental disease behind that is that these people are so self-identified in that gender role that becomes all-encompassing. I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm transgender. Trevor Lee specifically stated that he is trying to eliminate any type of incentives for illegals to come here. And the whole purpose behind this bill, and he says right inside the bill, is that the illegals will self-deport. Hi, welcome out to God and Country. I'm Uriah Kennedy, and this is Ingrid Bettridge. We were going to have a Utah senator, on with us this week, Jerry Stevenson. He's a senator in the Layton area, but he literally canceled on us like 45 minutes before we're going to be live on the show here. And he's kind of telling us that he's got to go off-site to do an inspection of some property the state's purchasing, and then a couple committee meetings, but we've since verified that those are not necessarily meetings he's having. We have some pretty good talking points today, some things we're going to be discussing that Trevor Lee is putting out there, some pretty controversial bills that Trevor Lee's putting out there that we absolutely love and fully support. And those were the primary things we were going to be discussing today. So we don't know if Stevenson, we're not accusing him of anything, but we don't know if he's wanting to discuss those, or those are hot subjects or not before his vote, which could be the reason where he doesn't want to discuss his opinions on them until after the Senate votes on them, because they're going through the House right now. But they're big subjects up in the legislature right now. So we're going to be discussing those today anyway, and kind of letting everybody out there in our audience know what's going on, the big bills that are going on up in the legislature right now. Big announcement is we actually have our store up and running. So if you look down below here, you'll see we have brand new shirts. We're repping them right now. So we got shirts with our information, everything on them. So please go to our store right down below. You'll see it right there, and buy our new merch. We got hoodies coming out here in probably weeks, so you'll see the t-shirts down there right now. Hoodies are coming out. Then we'll also have some normal ball caps coming out.
Nice quality t-shirts. These are really nice, comfy, stretchy.
Yeah, they're really good quality. We went all out on the quality. So yeah, you'll actually love the quality of shirts that you'll be getting. So yeah, look down the merch and support our channel. We also have our website. You'll be able to get them on our website as well at godandcountrypodcast.com. So you can buy them down below, or you can go to our website and get them there. We greatly appreciate any support anybody can give us. Again, we're trying to get around the whole YouTube suppression. They're pretty bad, and we're trying to kind of circumvent their algorithms to figure out a way to get our name out there, but they do not like getting anything conservative out there. So,
and thank you to all those who are sharing on our social media platforms, the shorts and things. Appreciate that.
Yeah, share it out on your Facebook, your Instagram. I mean, get it, help us get us out there. We do want to announce we got a pretty big podcast coming up later at the end of the month. The final date we will announce a little bit later, but it's going to probably be around the 20th or 27th of this month. We are going to be doing an open town hall in the Capitol Rotunda at the Utah State Capitol there, where we're going to have Trevor Lee there, Carrie Ann Lisenby is going to be there, a couple senators are going to be there. Corinne Johnson from Utah Parents United is going to be there. And then we're going to have 3 sets of parents who have had children who have recently, or maybe not necessarily recently, but have committed suicide. And we're going to be discussing some pretty hot subjects of DEI in our schools, CRT in our schools, LGBTQ issues in our schools, which kind of go along with Trevor Lee's bills that he's putting forth right now. And then the suicide issue that we have in kind of the western states right now, because we do have a very, very high suicide rate. We kind of pointed that out last week with Braden Hess as to the high suicide rate we have. We also pointed out in the podcast we had with Corinne Johnson that we need to do something to kind of bring that down. And a lot of that is attributed to what's going on in our schools, the whole fit-in issues we have there, and social media and media in and of itself being too prevalent within the schools and not under some kind of control. And we also mentioned that we should take internet off of any of those tablets that students are being given out by the schools, and so they do not have direct access to the internet, but have only access to school servers and stuff like that. Then if they go home and they can get on their parents' Wi-Fi or something like that, have internet access at home, then that's fine. The parents can monitor that. But outside of home and school, they should not have internet access. So this is going to be a big subject. We're actually going to be inviting all 4 major outlets. So Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, and Channel 13 are going to be invited to the Capitol Rotunda on that specific date. And then you as the public, if you want to come up and stand around us and be quiet, obviously, and let the conversation happen, then you'll be invited up to the Capitol Rotunda as well. So any of our listeners who want to come up to the Capitol building, you're free to come up on that date. Again, it's going to be either the 20th or the 27th of February, and we'll announce that final date probably here this next week.
This is Uriah Kennedy with God and Country, and one of the main reasons why I live in the great Rocky Mountains of Utah is because I am constantly getting out into the mountains and going hiking, camping. There is nothing, absolutely nothing that I enjoy more than getting out and hiking the great landscapes that we have here. From the great national parks we have, Bryce Canyon, Zions Canyon, to the great mountains of hunting and fishing here in the Uintas and other major attractions we have in the Rockies. Everybody has the ability to get out and just enjoy the great outdoors across this country. One of the best and only ways to do that is with the proper equipment. You have to go out with the proper equipment, whether that's tents or sleeping bags or coolers or lanterns or cooking utensils or apparel that you need to keep yourself warm or keep yourself dry. It doesn't matter what it is. We know that Coleman makes everything, absolutely everything in the outdoor arena. I have used Coleman products since I was a little kid, and now I'm sponsoring them. Everybody knows and trusts Coleman. Coleman's been around for generations. Your parents have had it. Your great-grandparents have had it. Coleman has been around for a very, very, very long time, and we all know the Coleman products. We want to thank Coleman for helping us with this channel. We would ask you to click on the QR code that's popping up on your screen or the link that is in our description and go to Coleman using the QR code popping up on your screen or the link in the description to buy all your outdoor needs and equipment from Coleman. It has to go through our QR code or through the description in order to support this channel, so we would ask you to support the channel. Click on the QR code or the link in the description and get all your outdoor equipment, your tents, your sleeping bags, your camping utensils, anything that you possibly need for the great outdoors. Get it through the QR code or the link in the description.
So, getting into the conversation today, we've got a lot of bills that we're going to be discussing. So there's a lot of news media out on these right now. There's a lot of stations covering them. So this will be pulling up Channel 4. We'll pulling up the Salt Lake Tribune. and a few other ones, and most of these are fairly negative against the bills, which is why I pulled them up, because we want to defute that. But let's start off with Trevor Lee's bills and the LGBTQ bill. And
Okay, what number is this?
you're saying that this is inflammatory. This is House Bill 183, and then there's also House Bill 174 and 193 that kind of coincide with it. But the main one is 183 that Trevor Lee's putting out there. This is coming from Utah News Dispatch, and we'll click over to the Salt Lake Tribune, but they're both kind of saying the same things. It's a pretty negative pieces about it, but I don't find anything wrong with this bill at all. So let's kind of go over it. What this is going to do is going to strip out the word gender and replace it with sex in many areas of state law, including in the state's anti-discrimination protections for housing, employment, and criminal victims. So on any official paperwork, instead of saying gender, it's going to say sex. And people are like, well,
How does that make a difference?
what does it care? I'll show you, because we're going to clip over to the Channel 4 article here. And right here is the reason why they're doing that. So specifically, HB 183 would replace the term gender with sex. The two terms are often used interchangeably, but this is the key. The Center for Disease Prevention and Control, the CDC, says sex is assigned at one's birth and is associated with one's chromosomal and anatomical attributes. Gender, according to the CDC, is the cultural roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes expected of people based on their sex.
Who says that?
The CDC.
The CDC says that's what gender means.
Yeah, the CDC. So the whole point of what Trevor Lee's trying to do is go on across federal guidelines, and because they're differentiating it, then the state can differentiate it.
So they can take advantage of people who are confused. That's what the CDC wants to do. Like saying gender is something
Well, I think
that you...
the CDC is trying to differentiate the definition so they can have certain rules set up that apply to one that don't apply to the other, so that outside agencies can't take advantage of it. So if you have some kind of activist group that's trying to say, well, gender is whatever I identify myself as.
Well, that's what I mean. Those who are trying to say you should be able to identify as you want is taking advantage of people.
They're taking advantage of the terminology in state law or federal law. And Trevor Lee is trying to...
And taking advantage to those who are either mentally ill or confused, have gender confusion.
Gender dysphoria.
And that's not cool.
Well, it all comes down to like legal terminology. So they're trying to, those LGBTQ, pro-LGBTQ type of activist organizations are trying to take advantage of the little letter of the law, the actual terminology within the law, and say, no, we have these rights and we can change our IDs and we can change our birth certificates and we can have all these official changes on official documentation that will lead to a whole new can of worms.
I didn't even think of that. Are people going back and changing their birth certificates?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and that's part of this law is we're going to get to that part of it too, because Trevor Lee kind of addresses that as well. And so he's trying to put exact terminology into the law so that the law itself cannot be taken advantage of. Defining the difference between the terminology sex and gender so that organizations can't
That's awesome.
all of a sudden assume rules and laws to themselves that are not meant to be that way. I think he's trying to get rid of a lot of loopholes.
Make it nice and clean.
This would get rid of a lot of loopholes. But the LGBT community is seeing that he's getting rid of the loophole, and now they're up in arms. No, we don't want to get rid of the loophole. And it goes farther. So you'll see in here, the ban changes to the sex designation field of the birth certificate. So in the birth certificate, no longer be gender, it has to be sex. It requires state agencies, when making administrative roles, to refer to the biological sex by using the term sex instead of gender. Again, getting rid of that loophole. and here were the important ones, bans school districts and certain providers licensed by the Department of Health and Human Services from assigning a transgender employee to the role that interacts with children. So if you have any type of state role and you're transgender, you can't associate with the child for more than 5 minutes. Literally, that's what the law says, is you can't associate with children underage for more than 5 minutes. And that, obviously, the whole transgender community is saying, like, that's bias, you're discriminating, you're limiting our opportunities for employment.
I don't know if that whole community is doing that. And the LGBTQ either, because we all, I know and have friends that do not participate in any of this radical political activism. They're like, this is just who I am. I like this sex, and I don't want to, they don't care to push it on anybody. They just want to live their lives, and they don't agree or affiliate with these
I would hope that
activism groups.
most of them are like that. Because the only thing this law is doing is eliminating it from kids.
Yeah. So I want to be fair to not grouping them in with those groups that are nefarious, that are people who are ignorant to what's really going on, and they don't realize they're being used by people with money and power for an agenda to tear apart this country.
Yeah, well, they want to have access to the next generation. They want to have access to the kids. Those extremists do.
So they use these people as pawns, get them all riled up, use their money and power to get them to these places, much like the protesters.
I mean, you read down below here, Lowe, which is part of Marina Lowe, policy director for Utah's largest LGBTQ advocacy group called Equality Utah, specifically argues the bill also undermines parental rights in ways that are harmful for the trans community and requires discriminating against transgender people in jobs that are licensed by the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, which is a huge list of different entities. Now, hospitals, foster care, adoption agencies, substance use, mental health facilities, youth residentials, all that are now able to discriminate against transgender people.
Not people, because she's saying children. Children should not be transgender.
She doesn't differentiate that, you know, by banning them from working in schools as teachers, staff members, counselors, or any circumstances where they would come face-to-face with a student for longer than 5 minutes.
Changing the gender of a child is child abuse.
It's child abuse. And she's trying to again, create this narrative that it's applying to a lot more people than it is. Why? Because they want to get the public up in arms against the bill. So you can't do this. This is discriminatory. The law specifically says children, 18 years and younger, you can't be with them for longer than 5 minutes. It's you can't put your influence on, your indoctrination on them, because you do not have the permission of the parents. I'm going to give a primary example of this. Just perfect example. And this example just came to me yesterday. So my sister calls me up yesterday and says, "You're not going to believe what just happened." I'm like, "What?" My daughter's school bus driver stood up in the school bus when the school bus was full, elementary school, and announced that he is going to have a sexual transition surgery and he's going to transition from a boy to a girl. He announces it to all the kids on his bus.
Because they really care.
What is going through your head that they need to know that, they even care about that, but how delusional do you have to be where you are circumventing the parental rights and saying, and having a discussion without parental permission?
Have those students on the bus ever seen his genitals?
Do they care?
So they wouldn't notice if they were different later. Not something you
Well,
need
he
to share with them.
started dressing up as a girl later, I guess, but that shouldn't be anywhere near kids, period. But the audacity you have to circumvent parental rights and thinking that I have the right to tell these kids what I'm doing, to have a sexual conversation with minors as an adult. You're an adult have a sexual conversation with minors outside of parental supervision, outside of parental permission, I mean, you should be on the sex offender registry list now. I mean, that is crazy. But a lot of people on the left have that where they think that they not only are obligated, but have the absolute right to circumvent parental rights and have these conversations with the next generation, with kids. Why? Because they purposely want to sway them in their direction, because they want to change the next generation's mental thoughts about how they view the transgender community. I mean, that is their goal. That's what they want to do. They want to get rid of that Christian perspective, that godly perspective that God created male and female and nothing else. That it's something other than gender dysphoria, that they can actually choose what the gender they can be. Now, as an adult, I am full-heartedly supporting whatever you want to do, you can do, right? That is your freedom to choose. I am not going to take that freedom away from you. But this bill, I think, is perfect because it affects children and it eliminates the very problem that just happened on the school bus 2 days ago.
I can't believe it.
Why would you get up and announce, well, by the way, I'm going to have a sex change to a bus full of kids? Where do you get the right, the audacity to do that as a bus driver? Just drive the kids to and from the school, and they don't need to know anything else about your personal life.
Did she call anybody?
She called me.
Why isn't this on the news?
She called me. And this is in Happy Valley, Utah County, right, where my sister lives, which is crazy. I mean, that's the whole reason why Trevor Lee's putting forth this bill, to not only stop things like that happening, but to eliminate it, like Lowe said, so the transgenders cannot be school teachers. They cannot be, let's see the list here. They cannot be in hospitals that attend to children, foster care, adoption agencies, substance abuse, mental health facilities, school teachers, staff members, counselors, or anything else like that associated with children. And 100% support that. 100% support that. So I am proud of our Representative Trevor Lee for putting forth this bill. We'll see
And
how
they
well
can do whatever they want in their private life.
And you can do whatever you want amongst adults. Don't try to cloud this into making it broader than it really is. It doesn't affect anybody else other than children. But the way Lowell phrased it is that it's affecting parental rights, it's affecting people, where she's trying to make it sound like it's more than just children. It's affecting everybody.
It's really
It's a specific choice of words.
it's really hypocritical to say, when you have twisted what the separation of church and state really meant, and you don't want God or anything of truth in the school. We can't talk about a child's true identity as a child of God, but you can talk to them about your sexual orientation. How hypocritical is that? We do, and is it the school's responsibility to teach children their values and morals? We argue that it's the parents' responsibility to do that, right? So none of this belongs in there. We want them learning how to read, how to write, how to think critically, math, the things that will make them successful in life. And the vast amount of radicals that I see out there from that community who are political activists do not look like they are happy people.
No.
They're angry. They're miserable. Their lifestyle, they get to choose, but it's not bringing them joy in life. Whereas the vast amount of people who subscribe to a faith, whether it be based on Christianity, they do it because it brings joy and happiness to their lives. Peace, calmness. But you don't want to sharing that with anybody in school, but you want to share your sexual orientation in school. Super.
Yeah, but why do
hypocritical.
kids need to know anything about your sexual orientation? Why is it so important for them to make sure that everybody, including kids, knows what their sexual orientation is?
Because it's the boiling frog. They want the next agenda. They use you as pawns because the next step is then it's okay to, they're already trying to, it's okay to have a relationship with a child. Children are sexual beings. That's the next step.
Yep. But the big mental disease behind that is that these people are so self-identified in that gender role that becomes all-encompassing. I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm transgender.
There's a lot more to life than who you like to have sex with.
Heterosexual people, we that is not our whole being. That is not what we identify. I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a businessman. There's a billion other things I identify that become significant, bigger priorities. It is not such a all-encompassing self-identification that if that fizzles away, or if I don't have absolute recognition about that my self-esteem dies, I die, everything about me dies because of it. And I think that's what they feel like is happening to them is I'm becoming non-existent. I'm becoming non-important. I die to society because people aren't recognizing me as gay or transgender. You're so identified with that. You're so, everything about your entire self-esteem is so involved around that.
Why is it so important to be celebrated for who you like to have sex with? I don't need to be celebrated. I like to have sex with my husband. I need no celebration about it. I don't.
No, I don't identify with that. But that's the dysphoria behind it. That's the mental disease behind it, that they're so identified with that if they don't get to recognize it, it means that they're less of a person. I don't understand that. It's like finding somebody, and this can be in a lot of instances where you especially amongst narcissists, where if one person excels, let's say one person excels in business and there's two co-equal colleagues within a business function, one creates this great program that the business excels with and makes a whole bunch of money, and the next person feels like they're less of a person because this person is excelling, and in order for them to excel, they have to downgrade and put somebody else down. It's the same thing with bullies at school. In order for me to feel better, that person has to be less than me. Sports, the same thing. I see a lot of players like that. If they win, that makes me a loser, makes me less of a person. So they can't see somebody else's success without that meaning that they're less of a person, that they are less qualified, they're less self-esteem.
We need a qualified mental health expert on here to discuss these dysphorias.
Someone else's success does not mean you're less of a person. And that's the same thing with the LGBTQ community, right? Just because someone doesn't recognize your orientation doesn't mean you're less of a person because they don't identify with it. I'm not going to identify with it. I'm not going to recognize it. I'm not going to use your pronouns. It's not going to happen. But I'm not saying you're lesser of a human being either. You're free to go out and work and contribute to the community. I'm not going to discriminate you in your workplace if we're working colleagues.
In my workplace, I am in contact with people from all walks of life. Yeah. And I lift and celebrate and say kind things, and I find what I like about that person because I'm a little bit of an anxious person, actually. And so meeting a new person every hour was a little intimidating, and I'd get anxious about it. But when I quit worrying about how I felt, and I'd find something that I loved about that person, whether it be I love your shoes, or I just celebrated a kid this week because, believe it or not, he handed his mom something to hold while he took his x-rays and said, "Can you hold this, please? Thanks." And I just thought, because the day before I'd heard a girl tell her mom, bruh, chill. Like, did you just call your mom bruh and tell her to chill? That would not fly in my day and time. So I kind of made a comment to her. I go, "You've raised that son right. What a kind, sweet kid." And she goes, he really is. And I later on saw it manifest. So I will find, and if your hair is bright pink, and I'm like, that is a really cool color to have in your hair. You also could not do that in my day. They hadn't invented dyes that would stay vibrant and cute like that. I don't like it on me, but I thought it looked really cool on her. So I celebrate all people. I just don't believe in your indoctrinating children to start thinking about these things that are not they're not developmentally mentally or physically to discuss. That's child abuse.
It's child abuse. You can't discuss it at all. My big fear is the pushback. The lefts and the evil things that are out there love the slow progression, love the step-by-step progression. And we on the right, we're too accepting a lot of times of the small stuff. Way too accepting the small stuff, not realizing that the evil...
Because we like to live and let live.
Yeah, we like to live and let live. But there's an evil scheme out there where they want to take those slow, very painstaking steps leading to things that are bigger. And we've all often done this comparison between Utah and what happened up in Oregon. Oregon is, they've flipped their mental capacities up there. I don't know what they're doing up there, but they can't live and let live. They can't just say, okay, you're considered we're liberal and you guys can live how you're going to live in Utah, and we're going to live how we're going to live in Oregon or California, where they're going to live. No, they can't do it. They have to proliferate their indoctrination to other states. And the only way they can do that is by these slow little processes. And having access to the next generation is part of that, getting the next generation more accepting so that when they grow up, they'll vote in more of this trash. And it'll go from being accepted in schools, being accepted as teachers, to open discussions in the classroom, to what's going on in Oregon, where all of a sudden the schools are taking the rights from the parents, labeling the parents as bullies, and sexually transitioning and medicating the children without parental consent and knowledge. They don't even know that they're starting to do it because they have the laws in place to be able to do that. This does not belong anywhere near children, or particularly in our schools. And she's specifically saying here that it's undermining parental rights when it's doing just the opposite. It is giving parents the absolute right to decide what is introduced to their children at all times.
Again, it's hypocritical. How would it go off if a teacher secretly had these kids who are not faith-based and had these private secret groups away from the parents where they taught them that they were a child of God, that they were a beautiful being that existed before,
started teaching them
and that they were loved by a Father in heaven? What a horrible thing that would be. But, everybody be up in arms, and our local stations would be covering how awful that was, that happened.
Religion in schools.
Hypocritical.
Yeah. So I applaud what Trevor Lee's doing, and I hope it actually passes. I'm pretty sure that it'll get through the House pretty readily.
I hope so, because we're going to look at those report cards, and we'll be looking to see who voted against.
And we'll see how it gets picked to death in the Senate, because we don't have the most conservative Senate here in the Utah. Just frankly the matter, we don't have a conservative Senate. It should be significantly more conservative than it is, and I'm afraid it's going to get picked apart when it gets into the Senate. The Salt Lake Tribune bashes it like crazy too. Utahns will again see a slate of bills from the GOP supermajority. There's something wrong with that? Taking aim at transgender people and abortion access in this year's session, setting up possible fifth consecutive year of lawmakers restricting transgender rights. That's not a right. That is, you having influence and affecting the next generation is not a right. Is not a right. You do not have the right to do that.
What's the name of this person that covered this story? I'd like you on the podcast.
Emily Anderson Stern.
Emily, let's talk.
That's not a right. The transgender community, you do not have the right to influence the next generation. That is the parents' obligation and theirs alone. This law is specifically making so you cannot influence other people's children. You can't do it. It's not your child. This is not your place. I don't know how conceited you have to be to think that you are obligated and have the absolute right to influence the next generation or somebody else's children. You don't have that right. It does not exist. This is simply defining that to make sure you don't cross that line. So I don't know what the Salt Lake
That's not harming a transgender. If a parent has decided that they are going to mutilate their child's mind and their genitals and do it, they're still free to do that at home. as far as the law allows. Coming to school and able to learn arithmetic and reading and writing is not being infringed upon.
Yeah, you can't do it with somebody else's child. It's not your child. I don't know why that's so confusing. Why it's so hard to think that. And then they turn to Lee, right? One lawmaker who has developed a reputation for his enlistment in the culture wars is Lee. Culture wars? The late Republican who, during his initial campaign for legislature, was criticized for using a slur to describe transgender people. This year, he's introduced HB 183, a 6,600-line bill that would have sweeping impacts on the transgender community. What's so sweeping about that? I mean, the language here is so inflammatory, so inflammatory. All it's saying is you can't have access to our kids. That's the parental right. That's a parental concern. You can't influence them. You can't teach them. It's not your place. It is not your place. It is not your right to do that.
And because you don't understand that, we obviously need a law.
Make sure you understand that for some reason. Just like that school bus driver. What right do you have to get up there without parental consent, without parents being present and announcing that to a school bus full of minors?
Is she calling the district today?
Minors? I don't know. It's just the audacity behind that is just crazy. It's the flamboyance behind it. What is your mental state? Do you think that's your right to discuss that in front of somebody else's child?
Anything sexual.
That's not your kid.
He should not be driving the bus today.
And for this reason,
that should be his last bus drive.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. It should be.
And we wish you well on your surgery. That should be your last bus drive.
Go drive a UTA bus where you're dealing with adults. You can't be with kids. And we see the same thing happen with school teachers. They just can't keep their mouths shut about LGBTQ community, Black Lives Matter, any of these things. They can't leave it alone. For some reason, the left, they can't leave it alone. They've got to indoctrinate the next generation. They got to discuss things with somebody else's child and influence them against parental consent, against the parental beliefs and what the parents want and how the parents want to raise those children. It is not your right to be in that position or to influence that in any way, shape, or form. So Trevor Lee limiting that, I fully support that and hope it does pass.
He's a smart guy.
So since we're discussing things with Trevor Lee, he's also put forth another bill.
Great.
That I fully support. So with this bill, Trevor Lee wants to limit and cut off resources for undocumented immigrants. And now, what kind of controversy can we stir up here? Because the funny thing here is we've gotten prolifically in our comments section, all the illegal immigrants don't have access to Medicare, Medicaid. They can't get food stamps. They're not getting any of this stuff. I can't tell you how many people are saying the illegal immigrants are not getting any of these things. Then why does not only the state of Utah, but Idaho and Tennessee, which is where he got this law from, was a mix between the Idaho law that they just passed up there, that is now in the court system to refute it, and the state of Tennessee passed a law similar to this. Why do both of these states having to pass laws making sure that illegals are not getting food stamps and Medicaid?
If they're not getting it, then why does anybody care if there's a law?
Yeah,
if they're not getting it anyway, why do you care?
Why do you care?
The other thing in the comment section is you have people, and I blame, again, the media, social media. People are confused. They do not understand the difference between an immigrant and an illegal immigrant. I have people that are commenting about the arrests of illegal immigrants, and they go, we should love immigrants and we shouldn't be arresting them. And I'm like, agreed, just the illegals. That's how I love immigrants, is by protecting their rights against those who are illegal. There is a difference.
Legal immigrants go through a long process. I mean, my wife included.
Because they love this country, they love the idea, and they feel like they would have a happy life here.
Yeah, look at dozen episodes ago, we covered the legal process coming into this country. But with this particular law, and we're going to walk through it here. So one of Utah's most hard right, get inflammatory, hard right Republicans, Representative Trevor Lee, is sponsoring those bills. The first to be filed is HB 88, would stop unauthorized immigrants in Utah from being able to access a wide range of publicly funded assistance programs. That could be housing, that could be any type of health care, homeless assistance, food stamps, I mean, you name it. Lee, Republican Layton, told Utah News Dispatch in an interview this week. If Lee's bill is approved, it would likely restrict undocumented people from accessing the state's Women, Infants, and Children program, WIC, which provides nutrition services and health food for pregnant, breastfeeding, and postpartum women, and to infants and children up to 5 years old. It would also restrict free vaccines, communicable disease treatments, a variety of other assistance programs that don't currently require proof of U.S. citizenship for people seeking help. Lee's bill is modeled after one passed by the Idaho's legislature last year. The American Civil Liberties Union sued Idaho, which is why it's in court right now, saying that it's eliminating them from having access to HIV treatment. So how they specifically pull out one disease that says, look, they can't have HIV access. It's like Planned Parenthood saying, you can't eliminate Planned Parenthood because now they're not going to have breast x-rays for breast cancer or something like that.
Well, it's not
That's
eliminated
like 1% of 1% of the Planned Parenthood's business, right? It's abortion clinic. But yet they want to pull out these extreme things to poo-poo the whole bill. He also pulled it from Tennessee. But again, what the bill is doing is eliminating it. So for sure in the state of Utah, illegal immigrants, like you're saying, can't have access to food stamps, WIC, federal housing
that
or
way
government-sponsored
our budget
housing.
can serve those who actually need it. Legal citizens and legal immigrants.
I mean, this is the whole reason why we're doing this, is there's way too much money going to illegal immigrants. We are not taking care of our veterans. We've discussed that many times on this podcast. We're not taking care of our veterans. Our own populace, U.S. citizens, are not getting taken care of well enough. And there's a lot of those people that are in need, and we're consuming these massive budgets. And the U.S. taxpayer, we as taxpayers, my pocketbook, your pocketbook, all your pocketbooks, should not be feeding the planet. It's America first, like Trump says. It is America first.
Well, we
can't
can't
have our own
afford
first.
it. Do you live within a budget in your home? If we told you needed to take care of everybody on your block, how would that affect your home budget?
Yeah. I was listening to Sean Hannity yesterday, and Sean Hannity had Dan Bongino on. And Dan Bongino was specifically talking about some of the rules behind this and how the left is pushing to have all these social assistance programs for these illegals. And the reason why Dan Bongino and Sean Hannity were talking about it is because of the census coming up in 2030 and how the left is specifically using these entitlement programs as bait and as lures to pull in a lot of people into these blue states, because California's bleeding population, Michigan's bleeding population, the Democrat Party itself is bleeding a lot of registered Democrats. A lot of them are going independent. They said it's like several million people have not gone Republican. They're not going that far, but there's a lot of Democrats that are now registering as independents. And so the Democrat Party is bleeding a lot of that. And so in order for the Democrat Party to keep a lot of the power, they've got to turn to the census. And the census just counts bodies. And Trump's trying to make it so you can only count U.S. citizens. You cannot count illegals in the census, which will eliminate that problem, which is why the left's fighting that so much, because, again, it's not about the illegal immigrants. It's not about them getting any of these benefits. The left could care less if they got any food stamps, or if they starved, or they had health care. They don't care. And as cold as that is as legitimately as cold as they are. All they care about is warm bodies that they can count to keep them in power. Trevor Lee specifically stated that he is trying to eliminate any type of incentives for illegals to come here. And the whole purpose behind this bill, and he says it right inside the bill, is that the illegals will self-deport. That way, we don't have to go out there and arrest them. No more of this ICE activity where they're forced to go out and arrest them. He says the more we can solve this problem at the legislature level, the more of them will just take the government's proposal, which is, what, they give them $1,000, $2,000 now for self-deporting? Mm-hmm. Take the money and just self-deport. If you get rid of the incentives, a lot of them will self-deport. And I mean, he's very specific in his interview that was the whole purpose behind his bill. I mean, he specifically mentions Trump in there. He says, we've got to support Trump's initiative more and get more of these illegals to self-deport. And it is not the U.S. taxpayer's responsibility to pay for WIC or food stamps or Medicare, Medicaid, all these illegal immigrants showing up in emergency rooms getting free health care.
Well, we see it as how it affects a lot of the healthcare industry is, for example, in the past, the industry I've been in since like 1999, children on Medicaid would receive free braces or dental care, a certain amount per. When they opened up and expanded Medicaid to all these people and illegals, the benefits started going down. Now, I get that a lot of the general public thinks that orthodontics is about making something look good, straight teeth, but it's not. It's about aligning eyes and jaws that when they're not aligned properly, you have a sequela of airway problems, developmental problems, and all kinds of things. So we don't need to get into that. But now the only children, so they'll call and they'll go, no, my kid's on Medicaid. My husband died. I'm a single mom. I've got my kids on this. It's covered, and it'll say on their orthodontic benefit. But when we turn it in, the criteria they have to meet, you would have to have a cleft lip and palate before they would cover that. So they tell them, oh, yeah, now everybody, we expanded it. Look how great. We're taking care of more families and youth. And you're not. It's a lie, because the amount of things that they can actually use with that, they've got the piece of paper, but doesn't pay for anything. And the only doctors they can see, so then doctors have to pull off because they can't afford to do it for free. So the only doctors they see, like people will call and go, can you help me? My kid's got Medicaid, but I can't find a dentist or an orthodontist on it. And we look at the names. Now, we as practitioners know who the crappy people are and who aren't. And the only names on there are people you would not want children going to.
Yeah, because they're
people committing fraud, places where they have only non-orthodontists putting on people with no education, no 12 years of college that it takes to know how to bioengineerly move jaws, doing braces on people, because that's the only people that can take the Medicaid.
Yeah, dangerous
You
situation.
don't get the sequela of opening it up to all these illegals too.
This is Uriah Kennedy with God and Country, and one of the main reasons why I live in the great Rocky Mountains of Utah is because I am constantly getting out into the mountains and going hiking, camping. There is nothing, absolutely nothing that I enjoy more than getting out and hiking the great landscapes that we have here. From the great national parks we have, Bryce Canyon, Zion's Canyon, to the great mountains of hunting and fishing here in the Uintas and other major attractions we have in the Rockies. Everybody has the ability to get out and just enjoy the great outdoors across this country. One of the best and only ways to do that is with the proper equipment. You have to go out with the proper equipment, whether that's tents or sleeping bags or coolers or lanterns or cooking utensils or apparel that you need to keep yourself warm or keep yourself dry. It doesn't matter what it is. We know that Coleman makes everything, absolutely everything in the outdoor arena. I have used Coleman products since I was a little kid, and now I'm sponsoring them. Everybody knows and trusts Coleman. Coleman's been around for generations. Your parents have had it. Your great-grandparents have had it. Coleman has been around for a very, very, very long time, and we all know the Coleman products. We want to thank Coleman for helping us with this channel. We would ask you to click on the QR code that's popping up on your screen or the link that is in our description and go to Coleman using the QR code popping up on your screen or the link in the description to buy all your outdoor needs and equipment from Coleman. It has to go through our QR code or through the description in order to support this channel, so we would ask you to support the channel. Click on the QR code or the link in the description and get all your outdoor equipment, your tents, your sleeping bags, your camping utensils, anything that you possibly need for the great outdoors. Get it through the QR code or the link in the description.
There's just not enough money. There's just not enough money to go around to that many people. The taxpayers don't have the budget. The states don't have the budget. The feds don't have the budget. And the U.S. taxpayers shouldn't be paying for this in the first place. Illegals are illegal. They should not be here. I don't know why the left is so thick-skinned about that. But they want their voters. They want their voter blocked. Another big part of this bill that we're going to go into is not only eliminating their ability to have access to all this, but it also goes through it and eliminates them from having any type of a driver's license, even temporary tags, or I forget the name of what he calls it, or driving privilege cards, even driving privilege cards. So it eliminates them from having any of that. And that's critically important. And a lot of people say, well, they've got to be able to drive while they're here. They shouldn't be here.
They're giving them those with no tests,
Yeah.
So you have to go through, you can fail your driver's test. You have to retake it. They're getting it without. And I don't have the numbers, but here in our state, the number of traffic violations and people getting killed and hit. One of our own legislators was rear-ended, and the kid came and he was just bawling, crying because he was like, I'll get deported. And she just, I'll take care of it. It's because it was a teenager, but
there's a ton of illegals getting DUI.
Why you think this is okay is weird.
The vast majority of them are driving out there without insurance, no insurance, because they can't afford the insurance. They got the driver's card, and so they just drive. Hopefully they don't get caught. I've seen 2 accidents personally where an illegal immigrant has gotten to an accident and just took off running because they didn't want to get caught, and they just left the car and ran. It's an epidemic, but those are just minor things. The biggest problem behind illegals getting a driver's license is that is all it takes to register to vote. And the left knows it. If I wanted to register to vote, all I have to have is a driver's license with an address on it. And that's it. I'm registered to vote. And it's the same thing with illegals getting on Medicare and on food stamps and all these other things that he's trying to eliminate. The same thing's happening to our voter rolls. And we'll argue until we're blue in the face in our comments section. Oh, they're not voting. They're not allowed to vote. They're all voting. We mentioned this last week again with Braden Hess that in California, the whole article came out that 450,000 people were denied on being on a jury because they were not U.S. citizens. And where do you get jury contestants, jury people? Is from the voter rolls. They get it. That's how you get a jury person. It's from the voter rolls. So that is the tip of the iceberg of how many illegals are actually registered to vote. If they had 450,000 called up for jury duty, and who do you know has been called up for jury duty? I don't know anybody. I mean, that's how...
I've been called twice, but it always gets dropped. How
slim of a chance you get to call up for jury duty. It's not very many of us that get called, let alone put on a jury. So it's a very infinitesimal part of our population that gets called up for jury duty. And of that
400, that's astounding.
It's a tiny little fraction of society that gets called up for jury duty. Tiny, probably a fraction of 1%, right? 450,000 got turned down for jury duty because they're illegals.
That's crazy.
That's crazy how massive of a problem that is, of how many people are actually on the voter rolls. It's going to be in the millions. I guarantee you that in the end, you'll probably find that 20, 30 million illegals around the U.S. are on our voter rolls and voting, which is drastically skewing our elections. I can guarantee you the main reason why California is so blue and Michigan's so blue and New York is so blue is because of how many of these illegals are on the voter rolls. Why Michigan is protesting so much about ICE right now? Because they're getting rid of their voters. They are deathly afraid that those states will go red when all of a sudden all these voters are
That's
no longer
not
there.
the only reason, though. You've got these high-end officials that have to have known what's been going on for years, well before we've been aware of it, and they are amassing billions of dollars. Waltz, all his cronies, the legislators, they are terrified that they are going to be outed.
Well, Waltz is already going to get outed. I mean, the whole thing going on up there in Michigan right now with all these Somalis pulling out $1 billion in taxpayer dollars and putting it in cash in suitcases and taking it right through the airport and flying suitcases worth of cash over to Somalia. And then they're tracing that, it's going direct to terrorist organizations over there. Billions. They just caught one like 2 weeks ago that she had like $70,000 in cash in her suitcase. After all this broke, after what Nick Shirley did, after all this broke and the whole world was scrutinizing, she still thought she could get to the airport.
And it's weird because I haven't seen that covered on any news.
And then she reclaimed and she was actually haughty about it. It's like, no, this is my money. I have every right to do this. And she started getting mad at
That's because they'd probably kill her if she doesn't get there with it.
Oh, it's insane.
They're all pawns, but like, why do you think they are enabling these people and have these legislators who are supposed to make laws have these internet sites for people to sign up and then they tell them where the ICE people are?
Yeah. Well, now it's
like
come
disgusting.
out how fraudulent Elon Omar is, and I'm sure it's going to come out how fraudulent Waltz is. I'm sure a lot of this money that's been going to these Somalis is going to loop right back around to Waltz, that he's been getting a lot of this money donated to his campaign. And then, like has been proven with Elon Omar, a lot of her campaign money was been filtered out of her campaign illegally to her personal accounts.
Did you
Goes
see,
over
was
family
it we who
members.
discussed how, like, her income was this much a year? Like, she was making $27,000 a year. The next year it was like 100. Then the next year it was, and now she makes all this money.
Well, her so-called winery is on massive investigation right now, because you can go to Elon Omar's husband's winery that they
Who's
own
also her
together.
brother, right?
No, that was before. She divorced her brother. She did marry her brother, then divorced him a couple years later.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, but her current husband right now supposedly owns a California winery, and you can go to the website, and there's not a store. You can't buy any wine. You can't call them. There's no address. You can go to the address that they have registered on it. Some hardware store, like a farm store or something like that on there, so that they don't have an address. The address that they're giving is not legal. You can't buy anything. And it went from being valuated at less than $1 million to now it's like over $25 million or something like that at its worth. So the entire winery is a fraud. It's a scandal. It's where
big cover.
they're laundering money. It is a shell corporation above shell corporations, because it is not doing anything business. It's not doing anything legitimate. And a lot of this Somali money that's been going to all these daycare facilities, it's all getting filtered right back around to Elon Omar's winery, to her campaign, to Waltz. They're figuring out ways to wash all this money. I can guarantee you that Elon Omar and the other Somali representative that is, or I forget his name, and Waltz, they've known about this stuff for years and have been facilitating it. Elon Omar does not like this country. She's not patriotic. She could care less about the United States. She is Somali first. And she said so much. It is, my president is Somalia, is not here in the United States.
Yeah.
She's openly said that. And yet she still remains as a representative, going completely against her oath of office. But it's stuff like that these bills are trying to prevent. There's just way too much money going towards illegals and not supporting the United States of America. And too many on the left are wanting power and money over what is good for the American people. And that's just straight up what it boils down to. And you can argue until you're blue in the face against this in our comments section, but the facts are the facts, and they're undisputed at this point.
Yeah.
Illegals cannot be getting taxpayer dollars. And the fight for years have been, illegals are not voting. The illegals are not getting Medicaid. They're not getting food stamps. And now everybody knows that they're getting it. It's becoming out that everybody knows that they're getting driver's licenses and voting, and they're all on Medicaid. They're all getting food stamps. And now the argument has switched to, now it's inhumane to take it from them. You're not kind. You're not Christian. You're mean. You're inhumane, not allowing these illegals to have all this free stuff. So what is it? Is it they're not doing it, or is it inhumane? And pick your poison. I don't know how many times they keep having these type of switcheroo arguments.
Because it doesn't matter. It's that whole derangement. Like, it's not just chump derangement. It's conservative and values derangement. Anything that we say, it doesn't matter. You're going to argue it. And
yeah, they'll argue it. And I mean, we've always said if Trump cures cancer, you're going to argue against that. So,
And you know, we're not even touching on the fact that this has been happening for years. We've always deported illegal aliens. It's always been done in the same quiet fashion that it's happening in other states where this isn't happening, where you don't have radical activists doing this. People are being deported in a quiet, safe manner. Nobody's being killed and shot. And those people that are being killed and shot are pawns to make Waltz and all these people wealthy. You're just a little pawn in their game.
I just saw a message this morning on one of our TikTok videos that ICE is not obeying the law. That we're going against the laws. We're not. We need to bring ICE under control because they're not obeying the laws. I'm like,
Which law?
They're obeying every single law. They're using the exact same laws that have been on the books for the past 60 years. These same exact laws that ICE used during the Obama administration to deport all the illegals in, too. The laws haven't changed. Obama deported millions, and everybody's like, well, what about their due process? Illegals have a completely separate set of due process. They don't go to courts. It's just these quick 5-minute hearings that, yes, you're illegal, deportation order. It's very quick. They don't have the same privileges that U.S. citizens do. That's just not in the law. And if you look at the Obama administration, he used the same courts, the same judges that Trump is using, and the same laws to deport them. The laws haven't changed, and you'll see that they're getting the illegal immigrant due process, which is not the same as the U.S. citizen due process. It's just not the same. The laws are different. But it does not mean that ICE is going against the law. It just means that you do not know what the laws are. And that's the big problem, is people are compounding that.
And you have the right to go protest at these. You just don't have the right to impede.
Yeah, you can't be interfering. No. That's why 2 people have gotten shot so far and died. And everybody's up in arms against that. I'm like, stop interfering with law enforcement. And a lot of people, that's a big other
especially law enforcement that has been threatened and is working in these volatile situations.
Getting stuff thrown at
and
them.
Trying to do their job. Let me come to your place of employment and taunt you and do this and see if that doesn't make the pot boil over.
When you get as
you're
many
idiots.
Death threats as ICE is getting right now, they're going to be on edge. And you want to go there and poke the bear, you have a suicide wish. And what a lot of people don't understand is they think that ICE can only arrest illegal immigrants, that they're only Customs and Border Patrol enforcement. And they're not. If you look at their charter, they are a federal agent. They have just as many rights to arrest citizens as the FBI does, as the U.S. Marshals do. In fact, their training facility is the exact same training facility. The same place that the Secret Service goes to, the FBI agents go to, U.S. Marshals go to. Any of these agents is the same training facility. They all go to the same training facility and learn the same laws, have the same training. It's all the same place. And their charters is the same. So yes, they can go out and arrest U.S. citizens. That is legal for them to do. And a lot of people are up in arms, they're arresting U.S. citizens. They legally can do that. If you are interfering with law enforcement, that is a crime. That is a crime, and you are going to suffer the consequences for that crime. It doesn't mean that U.S. citizens are getting deported, because they're making that assumption. They're deporting U.S. citizens. The only thing they saw was the U.S. citizen getting arrested. All of a sudden, they're going to deport him. Why? Because ICE is one doing the arrest, and they think they're going to deport him. No. illegals get deported, U.S. citizens that get arrested go get to see a judge.
It's scary because if you start thinking that you can impede in this kind of law enforcement, what other criminals are going to be okay to go in and impede their arrest? If the cops have to come to your house because your spouse is choking choking the wife or whatever, and then you impede on that, you're going to get arrested. You can't have people come in and where would we go from here? What would be the next step if this was okay?
That people just don't have respect for law enforcement anymore. And people don't, for some reason, there's rising generations that don't understand the law anymore. Cops simply arrest. When you get a speeding ticket and you're sitting there, you're trying to argue, I wasn't speeding, you try to argue with the cop doesn't care. He's going to write you a ticket. If you've got a warrant out for your arrest or something like that, he's going to arrest you and take you to jail. You can't argue the warrant in front of a cop. They don't care. They're not the arguing body. Just shut up, keep your mouth quiet, and wait until you're in front of the judge. And then you can make your argument. Because that's what the courtroom is for, is to make that argument. For your speeding ticket, your warrant, and you impeding the lawful arrest of illegal immigrants. If you get arrested by an ICE agent, the ICE agent does have the lawful authority to arrest you. And it's in their charter. A lot of people don't realize that they are an official federal agent, just like an FBI agent, just like Secret Service. They can arrest you. The difference is you're going to go in front of a judge, and then you can make your argument as to why you're interfering with law enforcement in front of the judge and suffer your consequences, whether that's jail time or just a fine. More than likely, just going to be fines, because that's what judges do most often. They'll, just like with a speeding ticket, they said, well, I'm going to give you 30 days in jail, but we're going to not make you suffer 30 days in jail as long as you pay these fines. I mean, everybody knows what happens in a courtroom. But people want to make those arguments out in the public and create these big inflammatory speeches saying that they're arresting U.S. citizens and doing all this stuff that's illegal when it's not illegal.
Show me the code.
Yeah. Big part of this leads into this. So the legislature just passed this one. It's going to Cox's desk for signature. So both the House and the Senate have now passed HB 300. Cox is saying that he doesn't agree with everything and he wants to negotiate some of it, which
does this specify what points?
Figures with Cox because he's not conservative. But if the law passed both the House and the Senate, which we do not have a very conservative Senate, Cox should just sign it. But yet that shows how far left Cox is, if he's further left than our Senate is.
But I'm interested to see what points he
well, he kind of explains some of them in here. So let's kind of go through this. So what this bill does is, starting in 2026, this year, requires voters with a valid state ID to include the last 4 digits of their state ID when returning a ballot through the mail or in a drop box. So you have to actually put the 4 digits so that people can look you up and make sure you are a U.S. citizen. Obviously, the whole point of this is to make sure illegal immigrants are not voting.
Okay.
Which is good.
He's not disputing that point.
No, registered voters are not voting, so you have to actually put the last 4 digits of your ID on the ballot before you mail it in, which a lot of people are okay with. But here's the issue. This is going to phase out Utah's current automatic vote-by-mail system by 2029. The legislature tried to get rid of the vote-by-mail altogether and just say, no, we're done with the vote-by-mail. But then the Senate stopped that and said, no, it's too quick. We need to phase it out, not just do cold turkey.
Why?
Which shows how liberal our Senate is.
We had a senator on here that I could discuss this with.
Which is what we were going to discuss today. This is why we were doing this. Why would the Senate not approve cold turkey? But no. They gave us the next 3 years. So we have to phase out mail-in balloting.
So how do you phase it? I don't understand.
Well, I'll explain it. But the sad part about this is one of the reasons why they're phasing it out by 2029 is what happens in 2028.
Oh, I'm so down.
Presidential election. A lot of our senators get reelected. So we have some pretty liberal people out there that want to keep the fraud going until after the next presidential election. Our Utah Senate is doing this, which is crazy. Crazy.
Did you know they just voted for term limits on U.S. Congress, but not themselves?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where I land on term limits. I've told you guys this
I
before.
would love to see term
and I
limits
love
for
having open
everybody.
discussions because I'm pretty open-minded about
I think
both sides.
people should have term limits, every single one of them. Anyway, so they're going to phase out mail-in ballots by 2029. Utahns would be required to obtain a valid state ID by January 1st, 2029 to opt into voting by mail by that deadline, which I don't understand that part of it because illegals are still getting valid state IDs. They're still getting driver's license. Unless Trevor Lee's bill goes through, which would eliminate some of that, you need a lot more than just not having a state ID because right now,
Was this bill written with 2029 in it?
the House didn't. The House had cold turkey. The Senate put in 2029. Yeah.
Maybe that's what Cox has a problem with.
Well, he kind of explains it, and I don't think it was that, but he has a couple of points he's going to make later in it.
Yeah, it's more facetious.
Okay, it allows Utahns who are eligible to register to vote that also sign an affidavit stating that they're indigent to receive a state voter ID card free of charge. So what that's saying is that if you're indigent, means you're too poor to go get a state ID, they can give you a state ID for free, which is what we've been arguing nationally, that people are saying you're disenfranchising minorities who don't have state IDs, which I think is completely racist because they specifically say that black people can't go out and get an ID for some reason.
That's insulting.
It's insulting. And then there's been proposed, well, we'll just give them the IDs for free, but we still need to require an ID for voting. Again, the same problem still exists. The left has made it so that illegals can get IDs, and so it's not going to solve the problem. What we need to do is not only pass a voter ID law, but also pass an ID law that eliminates in all 50 states from illegals from having an ID. And that is not happening because they're all getting IDs.
I can't get past the 2029.
Beginning in
Starting to cook up in my head of how we can stop this.
Beginning in 2029, voters who vote in person must present a valid ID. So, again, we got an ID, except in certain circumstances in which a voter could sign an affidavit and present two forms of alternative IDs like a Social Security card, bank statements, or pay stub, which I don't think should be valid because it's not a photo ID. I mean, you could falsify anything like that, but I don't have to have a picture ID. There's too many. I mean, it's completely watered down. This bill's completely watered down. By 2029, requires voters to opt in to receive by-mail ballots every 8 years, which I think is too long. Creates new ways for voters to opt into voting by mail, including when renewing their driver's license. Again, illegals get driver's license, so I can opt in and get my mail-in ballot even after 2029 when I renew my driver's license. So they're trying to eliminate.
We need hotlines
mail-in balloting, but not
where
eliminate
you
it.
can call in your friend and neighbor who you love but you don't like committing fraud and turn them in as having driver's licenses when they're legal. We could
I don't even know what.
vet it out.
I don't even know what this. So you're eliminating mail-in balloting, but you're not eliminating mail-in balloting because I can still opt in for it. It's just, what are you trying to do up there in the Senate here? It's either you're eliminating mail-in balloting or you're not.
Grandma Betty who can't leave her house to go to the voter booth.
Yeah, but this is too all-encompassing. The way the law sits is too all-encompassing. Anybody can do it. It doesn't have any age restrictions. It doesn't have proof of the capacity of I'm too old to drive, I'm too old to do this, I'm a veteran, or I'm a, not veteran, but I'm a active military, I'm not in the country. I mean, they've really got to hone this thing down because right now they've created a significant amount of loopholes to get around this law. Move up Utah's current deadline for mail-in ballots. Currently, Utah allows by-mail ballots to be postmarked by the day before Election Day in order for clerks to count them. But HB 300 would require ballots to be in clerk's possession no later than 8 p.m. on election night, regardless of their postmark. So I would agree with that, because that would make sure that they'd have to mail in the ballot 3 or 4 days early, or to give mail time to deliver it, because if it's not delivered by Election Day, then the vote's not counted. I mean, they should be eliminating all mail-in balloting, because that is the biggest source of fraud on the planet. And they're eliminating it, but not eliminating in this bill, because it's been watered down. So the Utah House and Senate gave final approval to HB 300 on Thursday, second to last day of the 2025 session that ends Friday at midnight. So this was last year. The bill now goes to Governor Spencer Cox for consideration. After a roller coaster of alterations, HB 300 is now a completely different bill compared to its original version sponsored by Representative Jefferson Burton of Salem. Its first iteration would have drastically restricted voting by mail and required most Utahns to return their ballots in person at either a polling place or a drop box manned by at least 2 poll workers while showing their government-issued ID. So that would eliminate a significant amount of fraud, because even if you had a mail-in ballot, you still had to go and turn it into a ballot location in person with ID and have 2 witnesses there. However, it was scaled back through negotiations by Senator Mike McKell of Spanish Fork to instead require Utah voters to write the last 4 digits of their ID on their ballot return envelope beginning in 2026 and slowly phase out Utah's current automatic vote-by-mail system, setting a deadline of January 1st, 2029. Is right past the 2028 election, because the 2028 election is November of 2028. So phasing it out just after the presidential elections. So there's not going to be any voter ID in the 2028 election, because now I can just put the last 4 digits of my ID on there. Now, tell me this. Who is going to go through all those ballots and verify those IDs? Could I just put in 4 random numbers and just mail it in? Because they don't, I guarantee they don't have the staff to go through and verify every person's ID. I doubt they're going to do it. They're probably going to handpick maybe 1 in 1,000 and verify 1 ballot in 1,000 and say, okay, that one was good, and just keep going through it. This spells fraud in big, bold letters. And I don't know what Mike McKell is doing, Republican from Spanish Fork, or half the other senators that voted to water this thing down. But the Utah Senate is got issues, because, I mean, they can't get our SB 54 taken care of. They're watering down our voter ID laws, our mail-in ballot laws. All these proposals by Trevor Lee are probably going to get watered down significantly once they go to the Senate. Our current senator is supposed to be sitting here right now, wouldn't come here to discuss these things. And I mean, I know for a fact this is why he skated this, because these are hard conversations, and they're not making it through the Utah Senate right now.
I'm sad.
Which means we need an overhaul in the Senate.
This is Uriah Kennedy with God and Country, and one of the main reasons why I live in the great Rocky Mountains of Utah is because I am constantly getting out into the mountains and going hiking, camping. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that I enjoy more than getting out and hiking the great landscapes that we have here. From the great national parks we have, Bryce Canyon, Zions Canyon, to the great mountains of hunting and fishing here in the Uintas and other major attractions we have in the Rockies. Everybody has the ability to get out and just enjoy the great outdoors across this country. One of the best and only ways to do that is with the proper equipment. You have to go out with the proper equipment, whether that's tents or sleeping bags or coolers or lanterns or cooking utensils or apparel that you need to keep yourself warm or keep yourself dry. It doesn't matter what it is. We know that Coleman makes everything, absolutely everything in the outdoor arena. I have used Coleman products since I was a little kid, and now I'm sponsoring them. everybody knows and trusts Coleman. Coleman's been around for generations. Your parents have had it. Your great-grandparents have had it. Coleman has been around for a very, very, very long time, and we all know the Coleman products. We want to thank Coleman for helping us with this channel. We would ask you to click on the QR code that's popping up on your screen or the link that is in our description and go to Coleman using the QR code popping up on your screen or the link in the description to buy all your outdoor needs and equipment from Coleman. It has to go through our QR code or through the description in order to support this channel, so we would ask you to support the channel. Click on the QR code or the link in the description and get all your outdoor equipment, your tents, your sleeping bags, your camping utensils, anything that you possibly need for the great outdoors. Get it through the QR code or the link in the description.
Weber County Clerk Auditor Ricky Hatch told Utah News Dispatch in an interview Thursday after the bill's passage that clerks still have concerns. With the implementation of the bill, those concerns include requiring clerks to eventually rely solely on the last 4 digits of a voter ID numbers for verification instead of signatures, which they worry could result in less security, not more, obviously, because you can just put 4 random numbers on there and who's going to
Maybe
verify?
they're thinking if you have to turn them in 5 days early,
I don't know.
that gives workers time
Well,
to...
they say that they can submit them. It just has to be in their hands on election day. But you're talking about state or county auditors' offices trying to verify all these IDs. They don't have the manpower to do it. They're not going to verify the IDs. It's not going to be possible. It's a lot easier to get a hold of somebody's last 4 digits of their state ID than it is to be able to forge their signature, Hat said. But we have time to figure out a good way to implement and strengthen that. I think they want to initiate more fraud and still keep illegals voting. Because again, illegals are getting IDs. So unless you make it illegal for illegals to get IDs, I don't see how this fixes anything. You have to make it so only U.S. citizens can get an ID in the first place, and then make sure that you have to have an ID to vote, period. In the end, if not everybody is happy with the bill, that's probably a sign that it's not that bad of a bill, Hatch said, especially after our improvements will be an improvement for voting in Utah. Your improvements, those are not improvements. You watering it down was not an improvement. I don't know how you call those improvements at all. I'm just, the disappointment, you should hear the disappointment in my voice, because it's, I don't know. I don't know what the Senate's doing. Let's get to the last 2 points here. So one of the next bills we want to discuss is they're going to be making a whole bunch of judiciary changes. One of the big ones is they want to increase the amount of justices on the Supreme Court. Right now, the Utah Supreme Court has 5. They want to increase it to 7, which I'm okay with because, well, they're saying that the Utah Supreme Court is backlogged. And they're just not making decisions fast enough. And they need to speed up the process by having more judges up there willing to decide on things and review things, which I would agree to because they haven't taken up our abortion bill in 5 years, 6 years.
They just really be backlogged.
There's a lot of other backlogs out here. So there's approval on this from both the House and the Senate, and Cox is also approving it. So I think this is going to go through with flying colors, at least that part of it. So what they're doing is the Utah Governor Spencer Cox, Schultz, Adams are all supportive of expanding the Utah Supreme Court from 5 justices to 7. They is to bring Utah in line with other states and help speed up decision-making, but Democrats question the timing of the move and whether it is in retaliation for several court rulings that Republicans have vehemently opposed, especially in the state's redistricting court battle. So Prop 4 is a big thing of mild discontent right now. If you haven't signed the Prop 4 to repeal Prop 4 and get Prop 4 put on the ballot, go out right now, find a place to sign that. We need every signature
And
possible.
don't be confused by the people there with signs, because I've had several people call or reach out to me saying they got confused because there's people there telling them, no, this is a bad bill.
Yeah.
And they thought it was official. Even at our, we had a county central committee meeting, and you have to go credential when you go to these meetings so that you can be part of the voting body. After the prop signature was up front before you go credential. When we got to credentialing, the gentleman who was credentialing me in, well, that's not true. It was the person sitting next to the person, but they were at the same table, told me, you need to go back and take your name off of that list. This bill gives the legislature carte blanche to redistrict, to draw the line, the districting lines.
Does.
And I just looked at him, I was confused because for a second, when I have somebody there, I'm thinking, oh, maybe this isn't the real bill people. Maybe it's somebody else. So I stood there staring at him and I said, well, that's the legislature's job. It's in the Utah Constitution. He said no, and then I couldn't hear. He said some nonsense because my head was spinning. But this was somebody who was at their credentialing table telling the body to go back and take their names off the signature.
That is crazy. Why are they at the table?
I don't know. And I really should have stayed, gotten his name or whatever.
Should have mentioned it to somebody.
I did. Well, right away when I came in, I sent a text to Don Guyman, but he was conducting. So I sent it to Trevor Lee and Britt Shauna, my precinct chair. And anyway, but then they're like, did you get a look at him? But he left. As soon as the meeting started, he left. There was somebody in the back booing that I thought might have been him when we talked about, they were just saying, remember to go sign, have a chance to sign. But like, they're infiltrating just our little teeny county meetings.
Yeah, sign it. Everybody go out there and sign it. We have to have Prop 4
Take your
on the
mom,
ballot.
take your next door neighbor with you.
Prop 4 has got to go. It's as bad, if not worse, than SB 54. We got to get rid of it.
It
So
is
go out there and sign
not the job of judges to
Or
make laws or
private-
independent bodies.
Third parties, non-elected people to decide.
It's in our Constitution that it is the job of the Utah legislature to do that.
Yeah, it's got to go. Anyway, so the left is now claiming that we are trying to stack the court because of this activist judge that put out Prop 4.
Well, I want to stack the court with people who understand the three branches of government.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Anyway, I think it's not necessarily, I mean, it's coincidental that that happened at the same time, but there's a lot of things happen up in the Supreme Court that are not happening. They're backlogged up there and a lot of decisions aren't happening. And then the Supreme Court justices themselves are coming out and saying, no, we don't want it. I think they want to keep their power because they're getting high and minded up there. But I think the power needs to be spread out amongst more people. And it does not mean I support stacking the U.S. Supreme Court because the 9 justices we have up there is more than sufficient. Schultz is also supportive of increasing transparency on judges. Several other bills have also been filed, including SB 57, which would increase the number of judges for district court, juvenile court, and the Court of Appeals. HB 262 would increase the threshold of votes needed. I'm completely supportive of this one. Increase the threshold of votes needed for a judge to be retained. Additionally, lawmakers have filed at least 3 proposed constitutional amendments related to the judiciary, meaning that it would require more of us to keep judges in there. But then this last part is critical. And we've discussed this with Carrie Ann Lisby and a few others. HJR 5 is coming from the governor's office, would allow governor to select any qualified candidate to fill a judiciary vacancy, even if the candidate isn't nominated by a nominating commission, which means if a judge goes vacant, that he can just hurry and nominate put somebody in there, which I'm okay with, as long as the next bill also passes, which is HJR 13, would empower the legislature to initiate a special retention election if the legislature decides the judge is unfit or incompetent. So it means that the governor can quickly fill a seat so there's somebody can be in a chair, but then the legislature can come out and take that person out of the chair if they're not deemed competent. So
In what period of time? When would that vote come up?
I do not know. But you can't have a vacancy because then nothing happens. But
See, that's
also
why I
gotta
wish there
have-
was a senator here who could teach, talk
but
to me
you've also
about
got
this.
to have the checks and balances, which if they pass one and not the other, then I'm completely and utterly against it. You'd have to be able to pass them both. The HJR 5 and HJR 13 need to come together in a single bill. You can't have one without the other. Because the judiciary, the legislature has got to have that check and balance to be able to take that person out if they need to. Then the other part of the bill is to what we've been discussing is put on the ballot how the judges have been. So there's more transparency with the judges. And the argument there, and let me see if I can find where they were talking about, is they want to have the judges to have the same exact transparency as a legislature has. So with a legislature, you can look up a line and see exactly how they vote on every single bill. And they want to require that the judges have the same transparency. So every single thing that they've ruled on will be transparent to the public out on the ballot so everybody can see. Because the biggest question that everybody has, every constituent has out there is,
How to vote on the judges.
who is the judge? What do they vote like? Nobody knows.
Do you know
Nobody
how many
knows.
people tell me I just vote them all out every year?
Yeah, there's zero transparency.
There's term limits for you.
Yeah, I do too, technically, but just get rid of the wall. But yeah, because there's no transparency here. So I would completely agree with that passing, that judges have to have the exact same transparency as our legislators. So on those retention elections, we as the public know exactly how they're ruling, to whether to retain them or not. And so hopefully that bill, well, it's going to pass because it already says that Schultz, Adams, and Cox all are supporting it. So that looks like it's going to be a good thing. One of the fun ones here, and I fully support this one too, state holiday amendment. So this would make the second Tuesday or the first Tuesday of November is always election day. It's going to make that day a state holiday. So everybody gets election day off to make sure no one's complaining about not being able to get
Unless you're in the healthcare industry.
Yeah, obviously, right?
That's why sometimes I wish it was 2 days.
But I would support that. So a bill has been introduced that would make Election Day a state holiday in the state of Utah. House Bill 104, State Holiday Amendment, sponsored by Representative Ryan Wilcox of Weber, proposes that the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November to be considered a state holiday. So both on local state elections as well as federal elections, it's a holiday where there's no excuse to get in there and vote. So we're trying to increase voter turnout. So get rid of the mail-in ballots, right? Make it a holiday so people don't have the complaint that they have to go to work and they can go in-person voting. So if they made that day a holiday, got rid of mail-in ballots, and checked down the voter ID requirement, made sure that not only could only U.S. citizens get an ID, but that you had to have an ID to vote, we could get rid of the vast majority of fraud anywhere.
What happens anytime we have a holiday that falls on a Monday?
It's Tuesday.
Oh, okay, a Tuesday. People are going to take it as the 3 or 4 day weekend
Well, they can't take the Monday
to
off.
go, well, I'm just saying, so parents will go out, take the kids on vacation. Sports will have a tournament that weekend so that you got to drive your kids to the sporting event, to the cheer competition, dance competition, and sporting competition.
Well, this is a Tuesday, not a Monday. It's the first Tuesday of the month, which is election day, to make that a holiday. So I would, anything to get rid of the excuses, I would be for. But they'd have to pass the other ones with it. Because, I mean, if you can control and get rid of mail-in balloting, if you control the ID problem, and you make the day a holiday, then they don't have any excuses to not go vote in person with their ID. And that would eliminate the vast majority of the fraud. And so the fact that we're going to get rid of that much fraud, there's going to be a massive amount of pushback from the left. Massive amounts. And then our woke right people, too, are going to have massive pushback on this as well. So we'll see if this gets past the Senate as well. Because all the good bills are coming out of the House, if you haven't noticed. All the good bills come out of the House, and then they either die or get tremendously watered down in the Senate before they go to the governor's office to maybe get signed. So we hope that Trevor Lee's bills get out there and actually pass through. But like this mail-in ballot bill that got just watered down to almost non-existence in the Senate,
And
I'm afraid that Senator or Trevor Lee's bills might just have the same thing happen. So notice vacant seat over here. Vacant seat over here. We need help with our Senate. So call your senators. Everybody out there here in Utah, call your senators and say, we want both of Trevor Lee's House bills to pass the Senate as is, and not get watered down. Because that would tremendously help our kids. The first one only affects our kids, not everybody else. So don't let that narrative dissuade you. The second one with illegal immigration, that would get rid of all incentives for illegal immigrants being here. They would self-deport, and it would make it so you as a taxpayer is not paying for it. You'd actually be paying for the social services for those people who need it. And then, I mean, the judges thing, that's going to be a great bill that goes through.
it's going to be interesting to watch it play out.
Very interesting. There's a marriage law, too, that I guess the marriage law here in the state of Utah is 16, and it's going to make it a felony for anybody to try to persuade anybody underage or deceive or to threaten anybody that's underage into marrying. So there's a lot of other things that are up there.
I wonder how long it's been 16. Because it's probably just from back in the day when we were working and supporting ourselves at a much younger age.
There's a deceptive pricing bill up there as well, that all pricing has to be laid out up front. I mean, there's a lot of good things happening up there, but the main bills, the important ones we've just covered today. And we were supposed to cover them with Senator Stevenson. We're going to be covering these exact same bills that we went over today next week with Senator Musselman, and then the following week with Senator Harper, seeing what their persuasions on this. And I don't see those two canceling on us once I send them the list of things we're going to be discussing.
If you have specific bills too you'd like us to ask questions about, if you're interested, let us know in the comment section.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's 689 some odd bills or something like that up there right now, which is far less than what was last year. Last year was like 900 some odd bills that they were considering last year. So they're busy up there with that many bills. Very, very busy. Now this is the one. This was that voter bill, so I just want to read one more thing to everybody. Last year, the House and Senate clashed over a sweeping bill that originally would have drastically restricted voting by mail. Legislature ultimately passed a watered-down version to slowly phase out automatic voting by mail in 2029. But Schultz said he wants to revisit the legislation this session, which is what they're doing, including enacting an in-person ID requirements. Adams said he's open to more changes, but he's supportive of keeping voting by mail while reinstating vote by mail signature verification, which would, under the current law, phase out by 2029. Both Schultz and Adams also said they want to add additional requirements to ensure people without legal immigration status can't vote, which is already illegal. Democrats question whether that's needed since instances of that happening are rare. Whatever is rare. Whatever, because anybody with an ID.
Then it shouldn't bother you.
Yeah. But the whole point I'm making right there is you saw the definitive difference between the House and the Senate. So Schultz wants to revisit it again because he was upset that
It got watered down.
it got watered down. Adams is being politically correct in his conversation here, saying, well, I'm supportive of just keeping things how they are. Let's just keep the vote in by mail. So let's keep the fraud in up until 2029, right after the next presidential election, so that
I'm supportive, but don't change it.
I'm supportive, but don't change it. Yeah, if that isn't perfect description of the differences between the House and the Senate right now of what needs to be changed in the Senate. Is that's horrible right there. I don't even know. What we're going to do with our Senate, I don't know, because we got problems up there. Any last words on our Senate?
You know,
I know Carrie Elizabeth complains about it all the time, and the others complain about it.
but they all do. You know, hopefully we can get a good vetting system and get the voters for the next election, get them informed so that they know who to vote for. I mean, Braden Hess had some great ideas. If you think he'd be a better candidate than what we've got on there, let's get him voted in. We'd love to hear who your other candidates are in other areas. If they'd like to be on the podcast, send them a message, tell them to reach out to us. Let's get the public informed so we can make better decisions and one day have a Senate that's as well respected as our legislature.
But this is SB 54 at work, right?
Yeah.
And this is SB 54 at work. I mean, this is why we have a liberal Senate, a liberal conservative Senate, because we can't get anything truly conservative done in the state because it won't go through the Senate. And obviously, we definitely do not have a very conservative governor. So all those things have got to change. And this is just proof positive of this. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that want that middle-of-the-road stuff, but it's not good for the state. It's not good for the country. We got to be more conservative. We got to protect our children. We got to protect the voter bloc. We can't have big money, big businesses controlling who gets into office. None of this is good because things like this happen. And we can't have our illegals voting. We can't have illegals sucking up all our taxpayer dollars. Just none of this is good. So we got to get better conservatives into office. Big elections coming up at the end of this year. I think there's 71 or something like that. Legislators up for re-election this year.
That's great.
I think something like that, those numbers. So there's a lot of them out there. So pay attention to who's running for office in your area, whether it's the House or the Senate. Pay attention. And pay attention literally to your delegates, because they'll probably know more than you are. Find out who your delegates are, talk to them, who should you be voting for, and let's make sure that the delegates actually mean something because they've done the research. Again, look down below and get the merch. We're merching it out here. Support the channel, get our merch down below in our store down there. We're going to have new stuff coming out all the time. And then support the channel by sharing this out on your social media, and your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, your X. Share us out there. Help us grow. We have a lot in these podcasts, a lot of good messaging, a lot of great information. We need your help to get it out there. Look forward to the big town hall that we're going to have up at the state capitol. We'll be announcing that next week. And we will see you guys on the next video.